Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Thought I'd wait. I guess I'm amusing myself. I just thought I'd wait an extra 2 seconds before I started. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here. And we broadcast 2 hours daily, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. If you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to take us with you as you travel, we have a listen line. Works great. 605-477-3249. John is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota, where it's minus 10. Here in Missouri, it's 7 degrees. I feel bad for those poor cows. Mrs. Finelli and our son are out feeding them right now in the snow. It's just awful thinking about those cows giving birth in 7-degree weather, but that's what they're doing. I'm delighted to be broadcasting with Glenn Parnham, our number one, International Health, his website, ihsite.com. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, brother. It's good to be with you, and you'll have to excuse my voice a little bit. I'm at the very tail end of a head cold, and but it's almost done with, so I'll do the best I can, brother.
Glenn, it's great to hear your voice. You know, I was thinking, just as the broadcast was starting, I was thinking about some of the things we might talk about today. One is, survival after grid down or supply chain failures or problems. And I was thinking about this. What could be a very simple thing that would cause problems for people? And here, for those who may live in the city, and we have students who live in cities. Well, they may ride the bus or the subway, to go shopping, from their apartment, their high rise. And an interruption can be something as simple as a group of young thugs taking over a bus or a subway. And they could do it a few times, during the week, and then people would say, wow, it's really dangerous. These guys are rough. They think they own the subway or they think they own the bus, and it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel safe to be on either the bus or the subway. Now, even though the supply chain may still be running, they don't feel comfortable going to get the things that they need. So that could be a disruption for them. So I was thinking about preparedness. And preparedness is simply having what you need before you need it. It's as simple as that. Having the skills, having the tools, and having the supplies. And would you like to talk about that? Because if you're not healthy, you've got a huge problem when
and that's the basis,
the supply chain fails.
Well, that's the basis of everything. And I'm going to ask your listeners, okay, get something to write with. I'm not only going to give you a website, I'm going to give you my personal number at my research office. I've been the director of research here in Arizona with International Health for 28 years. And I give out my personal number because I don't care what disease the pharmaceutical cartel has told you that you have. Everything can be fixed. And what is really disturbing is that exactly what you're talking about, all right? A lot of people, all right, are thinking now, well, let's see, Trump won. Happy days are here again. We can stop prepping. That's one of the most stupid things I've ever heard. If you think that the satanic powers that be are going to allow Trump, right, to do everything he wants to do, you're nuts. And they're going to collapse the economy. They're going to collapse the sick care system. We don't have a health care system in this country, and they're talking about redoing the abomination care, all right? But you better not stop prepping, because just because we have a man named Trump, anybody putting their faith, all right, in a man besides Jesus Christ of Nazareth, you're going to end up dead, okay? He may buy us some time, but you better keep getting your food, keep getting your water, all right? There is going to be, not maybe, there is going to be a grid down situation. It may start as a regional and then spread nationwide, but we know it's coming. That is the major Achilles heel of this whole nation. Why has this do-nothing Congress, the communists in Congress, and I don't care, in my mind, and I am apolitical, there is no political answer to a spiritual rot. Why haven't these so-called leaders in Washington District of Criminals done anything about the grid? They know it would only take a few $1 billion to harden the grid, because that's how they're going to take us down. Because you're exactly right, Vincent. When they take the grid down, and at the same time, imagine this chaos. All right, at the same time, and okay, when the grid goes down, there goes your banking system, and if you don't have cash at home, all right, which even in that situation may not do any good, but if you're relying on checks and credit card and banking system, when that goes down, we're done. You will have chaos erupt within a couple of days, all right, and you better have food at home, all right, you better have plenty of water at home and a way to heat it up to make your meals. You better be healthy. You think it's stressful now? You don't have a clue of what's coming. And at the same time, imagine these satanic leaders of the world. At the same time, we have a banking collapse and a grid down situation, and the food distribution is broken up, that they release a pandemic. One of my specialties is infectious diseases. I'm 66 years old. I've been doing this for decades, and I'm telling you, they have germ warfare that if and when they decide to release it, they can kill a whole city in 24 to 48 hours. You better get ready, and that means you get your health back. That's why, and my personal number at my research office is 480 area code, and Arizona is in mountain time now. So 480-429-0021. If you get the voicemail, just, leave your name and number, and I'll get back with you. That's my promise to you. We will go over whatever breakdown in your human body you've been diagnosed with. Quite frankly, I don't care what the doctors have told you. And just to let you know my opinions on doctors, they are great for trauma. I have seen it up close and personal with my own relatives. Heart attack, stroke, broken bones. You're not going to go to a chiropractor for those problems. You go to a trauma center. What they can do there to save the life of a busted up human body is miraculous. But let's be honest about it. Okay, the medical cartel is the largest criminal organization in the world, and they've never cured a disease. They're not in the business of curing disease. They're in the business of treating disease. Because if they were to cure you with any of their satanic drugs, then they lose business. They want to keep you sick and tired and fat and depressed and get diabetes, get cancer, and sucking on their pharmaceutical drugs. So when you call me, we'll go over what medications you're on. You never want to go cold turkey off of any medication. All right? And I'm going to put a caveat on that. There is one that I just tell people, throw it away. If you're on a statin drug to lower your cholesterol, one of the biggest criminal deceptions ever. And there was a major medical journal published about 6 to 8 weeks ago, and it came out of Europe. And it said, you Americans have been completely deceived for over 30 years. You have bought the lie of the pharmaceutical industry that there is a correlation between cholesterol and heart disease. They said that is an absolute lie and that there is no correlation. We know what causes heart disease. It's called inflammation. And they want your cholesterol under 200. And just to let you know, the human body makes cholesterol. That's what your liver, that's one of the things your liver does. It's also responsible as the raw material to make hormones. And they want your cholesterol under 200, and every major disease starts under 200, cholesterol. So that's the only drug I'll ever tell people to throw away. If you're having a problem, really high cholesterol, 6, 7, 800, that's your diet. And if you're eating at McMaggot burgers and Kentucky Fried Cancer, and that's the problem. That can be fixed. But we will go over the pharmaceutical meds that you're on, because here's what's going to happen. When there is a grid down, whatever is going to be the problem. It could be a false flag attack. And just look at Venezuela right now. They've kind of stopped talking about it in the mainstream press. But right now, they have hyperinflation. They're not even counting the money anymore. They're weighing it. And the pharmaceutical cartel has cut off all medications to the hospitals and to the doctors. You have literally hundreds and hundreds of people dying a day. They're dying so fast, they're stacking them up like cordwood, all right? And the hospitals are hellholes. Oh, that can't happen here, Glenn. Are you nuts? It's going to happen here. They have set us up for a zombie apocalypse. You got 100+ million Americans taking one of the most demonic drugs, antidepressants, antipsychotic, antidepressant, Prozac, Paxil. The first ingredient in those drugs is fluoride, and they say that's to help the brain. Come on, quit buying the lie. And if drugs are keeping you alive until we get your human body fixed, when they cut off the drugs, you're dead and in the great suffering. So we have over 100 million people on antidepressants. We've got 60 million people addicted to opioid painkillers. I hear the music. So we'll continue when we're back from the break.
Glenn Parnham's with us. International Health and his website, ihsite.com. Phone number, 480-429-0021. We'll be right back. Glenn Parnham, during the break, I was looking at some images of Venezuela. And there are images on the internet right now of newborn babies on a shelf in cardboard boxes. They're lined up because they don't have isolettes. Yep. They don't have other facilities. Literally, these newborns are in cardboard boxes about the size that you might find bananas being shipped in to Sam's Club or Costco or your supermarket. Then there are people who are in traction, for broken bones, and they've got a piece of string attached to gallon jugs or 2-liter soda bottles filled with water for traction. And there's in these hospital rooms, the mattresses may or may not have sheets. They certainly don't look clean. There's trash on the floor. If you look in the roads, in the streets in the city, trash almost everywhere. If you look in the, we'll call them supermarkets, the shelves are bare, and there's trash. Whatever broke when someone dropped it. It's there in broken condition, glass, whatever, on the floor, the contents of whatever fell on the floor in the supermarket. It's absolutely disgusting. It's just a paradise.
And I hear people say
disease.
That can't happen here. Excuse me. Okay, Venezuela has more known oil reserves than Saudi Arabia. It is fabulously wealthy, but it's a communist, socialist country, which is what these these people in the District of Columbia, I call it the District of Criminals, have been doing. That's what the abomination has been trying to do for 8 years with our country. Well, it's going to happen in this country. There is no political answer, and you're right, Vincent. Okay, the people who are so ignorant, well, that can't happen here. We got plenty of food. We're going into a famine. I mean, okay, we could spend a whole show talking about what's going on with food supply, and distribution is the key. And when that goes down, we're done. And if people do not have months of food storage, enough water to make it, enough water to live, you can go a long time without food. All right? And it's so bad, okay, in Venezuela, they're eating their cats and dogs and any animals they can get their hands on. Well, again, that can't happen here, Glenn. Yes, it can. And anybody who is naive and ignorant, bordering on being stupid, is going to suffer. And they're going to have to pay the price. Get food. Get water. Get protection. If you don't have it, because if you think it's going to be just nice and calm, all right, and then hungry people are not going to riot. Are you kidding me? And so exactly what's happening there, it's happening in our country. Look at these 4 black thugs in Chicago. Oh, let's see. The strongest gun control in the nation, 762 murders last year, and these 4 black thugs, all right, who, it's been all over the news, and they don't know whether or not to call it a hate crime. If that had been 4 white people who did that to a black man, you'd have the cities burning already. You'd have Black Lives Matter out there rioting. You'd have the abomination all over TV. But it's 4 black thugs and 2 of them girls, so devoid of human feeling. Look what they did to this young, guess he's an 18-year-old with some mental challenge. When it hits the fan, my brother, it's going to be worse than anybody can imagine. And the people who are naive are not healthy, because what's going to happen if you can't get your meds? That's why I want people to call me. This isn't about just doing business. This is about getting you healthy so you can help other people, because I'm on the phone 12 to 14 hours a day, Vincent, and I don't charge for my consultations, and I'm telling you, people are sick. They're sick and tired and overweight and got depression, got cancer, got diabetes, sucking on pharmaceutical drugs, and when these bastards cut that off, what's going to happen? You're going to have human suffering beyond anything we can think or imagine. So please, people, call me at my research office, 480-429-0021. If you get the voicemail, okay, then leave your name and number. I'll always call you back, and we'll get you healthy. Nothing is incurable. There is no disease
Glenn,
that can't be fixed. I hear you, brother. I hear the music.
Yeah, when we come back, let's talk about congestive heart failure and the importance of water. Glenn Parnham. This is USAPrepares.com. Glenn, I just posted an article on the website, USAPrepares.com, about one of the things that's going on in Venezuela. They have some people who have mental illness, and without treatment, medical treatment, they're relying on just tying these people up in their beds, tying their legs. Yeah. So all they can do is scream and wet themselves, right?
Well, and you got 60 million in this country who are addicted to the antidepressants. So imagine what happens when they can't get them. That's called a psychotic break, brother. And it's going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be worse than anything we've ever imagined. We've been set up. If anybody thinks this has been done, just by accident, okay, and I used the wrong number, 100 million people on the antipsychotics, antidepressants, 60 million people on the opioid painkillers, which are nothing more than heroin in a pill. What do you think is going to happen when they get cut off? And you can't tie down, millions and millions of people. They could do it in Venezuela, smaller country, okay? And all these disease states are going to get out of control, because it's not that these satanic rulers are not, they want to take down everything at once so they can bring about their, and it goes by a lot of different names, New World Order If a person's a Christian, it's mentioned in God's Word called the beast system. It's already built, all right? They just have to collapse the current system, and they're going to do it, probably in Trump's first term, maybe the first quarter of 2017. I don't know. That's why anybody who has stopped prepping and getting extra food and getting water and getting a way to protect you and your family and ways to, because I guarantee you the pandemics have already started. And if anybody out there is eating pork, I just got a report. First of all, if you eat pig, you're going to look like a pig and die like a pig. All right? But they have found a new superbug in this country, started over in China. All right? They have found a new superbug coming out of the pig farms. And you get it, you die. They got nothing to touch it. Imagine that. That's why we have the product called Super Silver in different strengths, okay, to be able to wipe out these infectious diseases. They're spreading like crazy. You go into a hospital now, you might as well just roll a pair of dice. Say, hey, what am I going to get? MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus? Am I going to get C. diff? Am I going to get some other drug-resistant infections? And that's even if you're just visiting. It's now up in the air ducts, okay, of the hospitals. Every hospital in the United States is inundated. That's why they have these infectious disease divisions in every hospital. So people better wake up. And you're exactly right, brother, okay? Now, you mentioned something about heart disease. And understand something. All these different names for the different diseases, when we break it down to the lowest common denominator, it has to do with organs failing. What's happening to the organs? Why is, as people get older, now it's happening younger and younger and younger, all these disease states, and they love to put names on it. You know, diabetes. Well, that's the pancreas malfunctioning. Liver disease, hepatitis, that's the liver being infected and breaking down. Heart disease, that's the most important muscle in the body not functioning properly. And if anybody thinks a drug is going to fix that, they're nuts. A drug will cover up a symptom until the person dies. And they spend thousands, if not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars listening to the doctors. And the doctors may be well-meaning. They're all trained by the same satanic pharmaceutical cartel. Okay? So, as we look at heart disease, it has been known for over 100 years with published medical studies. The primary deficiency that causes heart disease is magnesium. And you mentioned one of our websites, ihsite.com. On the right-hand side are different articles and the studies. So under Are You Magnesium Deficient? Okay, if you hit that link, and the first article that comes up is the Magnesium Deficiency 101. And it's like a college class. And I had a group of magnesium doctors and scientists send this to me, and they had gone back into 100 years of studies, published medical studies. And they have a graph, okay, what happens as far as symptoms and diseases with a minor low, magnesium problem. Then they have what happens when you go to a bigger deficiency. And the very last graph on it is the killer diseases. Everything to do with the heart is magnesium deficiency. So what's the problem with magnesium? Well, and your gut does have to have magnesium. And it helps with digestion. It helps your pancreas. It takes some of the pressure off the pancreas. But if you put thousands of milligrams of magnesium into your gut, you get really bad diarrhea. So how do you overcome that? How do you raise the levels really quickly? It's called transdermal, which means through the skin, liquid magnesium oil. It's extracted from ocean water. There's 3,000 milligrams per ounce, and you can soak your feet in it. All right, you put 2 to 3 ounces in a container that your feet fit in, then the hottest water you can stand, and you soak your feet for 30 or 40 minutes as often as you can. You cannot overdose with magnesium. The body burns it up so fast. That's one of our main selling products. It has been for years. All right, and then the gut does have to have magnesium. But all these diseases, there's no mystery to heart disease, and it's not high cholesterol. And again, I mentioned before, if you're at 600 or 700, That's because you're eating garbage and you're cooking with a vegetable oil instead of coconut oil, all right? And I've got a quote here. Very famous doctor, his name's Dr. Jerry Tennant. The body does not get well by making damaged cells work correctly. It gets well by making new cells that work correctly. And most people do not know. Okay, one of the miracles that God gave us in our body is DNA replication. The body makes 300 billion new cells every day. I didn't say better, I said new. It has to feed on the blood. The life of the flesh is in the blood. So if you have healthy blood for those 300 billion new cells, okay, to make or to use for their food and fuel, then the body gets healthier. Most people don't know. Okay, you have a whole new skin on your body every 6 weeks. You have a whole new liver every 8 weeks. You have new nerve cells in a period of months. You have a whole new heart every 10 to 12 months. That's why the pharmaceutical industry has been able to criminally lie for decades. Well, once you have a disease, all we can do is control it with drugs. That's a lie from the pit of hell. And all right, and write down this website, people, because you need to know about this product. It's going to change everything we know about human nutrition. Protovite.net. P as in Peter, R-O, D as in David, O, V as in Victory, I-T-E, that's the name of the product, .net, N-E-T. You'll see before and after live blood videos. First, and I've been doing this for 28 years, all right? Never seen a product. Within 5 minutes of consuming this liquid product, it starts to change blood chemistry from ugly, toxic blood. You'll see it. And within 5 minutes, all right, it starts to change the blood chemistry. And with continued use, the gallon and a half of blood that people have in their body gets healthy. Those new cells then have a healthy bloodstream to feed on. And the pancreas rebuilds itself. The kidneys. How come all this kidney disease? I mean, it's epidemic, brother, just like liver disease. See, all the blood runs through the kidney and the liver, and the primary thing the kidney does is to detoxify the blood. Well, and when the blood is so toxic, and they'll see it on protovite.net, the blood is ugly. Even in myself, I was taking hundreds of dollars a month of the very best certified organic nutrients on the planet. No synthetics, all right? My blood looked like crap. Why? It's about absorption. And the patent-pending absorption technology on Protovite passes through the gut, doesn't matter how bad the gut is, gets into the bloodstream, starts to change the blood chemistry. So now the cells will rebuild. So look at the average kidney. It's dealing with the most toxic blood you can even imagine. And the powers that be are spraying us with chemtrails. They're spraying us like insects, toxic food, toxic water, electromagnetic frequency from the cell phone towers and the cell phones and the smart meters on the home. Our blood is completely toxic. As that flows through the kidney, all right, kidney cells cannot handle to try to detoxify it, and eventually the kidney starts to shut down. Then you have to be put on a machine that does what the kidney is supposed to do. Same thing with the liver. All of your blood travels through the liver every few hours. If that blood is incredibly toxic, it's going to affect every organ. The pancreas breaks down all the sugar and the high fructose corn syrup and the genetically modified poisons that they're feeding us. Then the heart starts to malfunction because the blood flowing through the heart doesn't have super nutrition, doesn't have enough magnesium. There's no mystery to this, even though they like to say, well, we really don't know what causes cancer. You know, it's a multicellular dysfunction at the DNA level. That's a bunch of crap. They're lying. They want to keep you sick so they can keep this profit thing of trillions of dollars a year flowing into the pharmaceutical cartel, and until they decide to, well, let's have a grid down situation. Because even the reports that are out there, conservative reports, are saying 80 to 90% of the people would be dead within 6 months. Gee, I wonder if people should have extra food, extra water, and a way to protect them and their families. And if you stop prepping, thinking that happy days are here again, you're in for a major shock. And please get ready for that. And then the infectious diseases. They can read about super silver, okay? It kills viruses and bacteria and fungus. But what they're going to release on us, it's going to kill tens of millions. And if you're just barely healthy, what do you think is going to happen to those people first? They're going. And it's not going to be pleasant. And that could be very hard for families to watch their loved ones dying right in front of them. I hear the music again, brother.
Yep.
Okay.
Music's coming on, and we're going into a break, and we come back. Glenn Parnham's with us, 480-429-0021, and we've got Werner Bach on hold, calling in from Canada. Werner, you'll be up next. We'll be right back. Class, we're talking with Glenn Parnham, and I just want to mention that I'm looking at the chill map of the United States. Looks like northern Nevada winds minus 35 degrees. So it looks to me like that's a pretty dangerous situation. There are many states that are in negative territory. Plumbing can freeze, pipes can burst, water may stop being delivered. So make sure you're prepared with food and water. I mean, these are serious temperatures. Werner Bach's with us. Welcome, Werner.
Good morning, Vincent. I'm sorry I didn't come back to you, but it got my interest, the guest you got today on. And I think we as the public, we have to wake up.
Werner, please speak up. It's hard for us to hear you. Speak up, please, if you can.
We as the public, we have to wake up and do our own research from credible sources, because we have been boondoggled for such a long time by the so-called experts, the experts we trusted. And at least two-thirds of those experts, we have to always check and double-check. We cannot trust them anymore, and ultimately there have to be legal consequences for those experts in government positions and so that are abuse their power. And your guest mentioned earlier about putting people on psychiatric drugs and all this stuff.
Yep.
That is especially a danger that's waiting for anybody who blows the whistle on the massive fraud that's going on all over the place.
That's right. In your country, too, brother. Look what your politicians are doing to your loony up there. Okay, look what they're doing. I just got a report that they better build that wall pretty quick. Okay, because down in Mexico, you got hyperinflation starting. Okay, the gas jumped at 20%, hundreds arrested. It now takes 12 days of wages for the average Mexican to fill their gas tank. Okay? Something's up. You're exactly right, Warner, that all these so-called experts, see, that's hard for North Americans to believe this. Everything we've been told and taught in school our whole life is an absolute lie. We have been under the control of a criminal, satanic, mafia, whatever you want to call it, a cartel. They've controlled the educational system. They've lied to us about everything and have us in so much debt we can't dig out from under it. And now they're planning something big. Did you hear, Vincent, that for the first time since World War II, every one of our aircraft carriers is in port? There is not a single aircraft carrier on any ocean anywhere in the world. Gee, I wonder, are they setting us up for another Pearl Harbor?
We reported exactly that, and that was the question that we asked at the beginning of this week.
Yeah.
Several days ago.
It's still 2 weeks before Trump gets in. This abomination in the White House doesn't want to leave. That's why I want people healthy. I want them prepared, as you do. Okay? And quit believing anything mainstream media. They're a bunch of liars. Okay?
Front page of the Drudge Report right now says, quote, Obama builds wall around new mansion. So Barry and the bandits are moving in to a rental in Washington, D.C., down the road from, down the street from the Trumps. And they are building a wall. They are so concerned that they are building this, I see, brick is being used to build this wall. Maybe there'll be some iron fencing. It's pretty darn tall. You're not going to be able to climb this wall, to get to his front yard. He is so concerned about his safety after all the damage he's done. He's building a wall around his rental property. However, we don't have to worry about any other walls around our country and our safety. Just for Barry and the bandits, it's an absolute outrage.
When it falls apart in Mexico, we can talk about Venezuela. Right at our border, it's falling apart. They're moving into hyperinflation. Can you imagine having to work for 12 days just to fill your gas tank? They're not going to like that. They're coming across the border, and so please, people, call me. Let's get you well. Let's not, fall prey to the pharmaceutical cartel. So keep up the good work, Vincent.
Thank you, Glenn Parnham, for being with us. Class ihsite.com, ihsite.com. And Werner Bach, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate you being with us as well. Coming up next hour, we're going to be talking with Mike Parsons and Guineith Isaacs. We'll be right back.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. And we've got Guineith Isaacs with us, and she is in Australia. Guineith, welcome.
Hello there, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Hey, thank you for staying up late. What time is it in your neck of the woods?
It's just after 3 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, but I've got the kettle boiling and the fire on, and so I'm sitting in for an hour.
Great. Thank you for being with us. And joining us is Mike Parsons in Tennessee. Welcome, Mike.
Greetings, Vincent, and greetings, Guineith. And Guineith, when you have time, please email me if you've got a good contact number. I'd like to talk to you after the show if possible.
Okay, that'd be great. Yep, I'll get on the phone to you after I get off the air. I think I've got your number here. Yep.
Wonderful. And both of you are facing threats from the government. Guineith, you've been harassed, and Mike Parsons, you've been harassed and jailed and imprisoned for not doing anything I understand to be wrong. It's just that the system is picking on you. So why don't we start with Guineith in Australia? Guineith, what is the latest? Give us a thumbnail about your current situation and what is happening to you and what you've done about it.
Okay. Well, I still am facing criminal damages charges for, criminally damaging a road train that T-boned me back in July. Now, we drive on the left-hand side of the road here, and I was basically heading to do some grocery shopping in town. For those who don't know, I live on a small holding of about 60 acres, and this particular town, I live in between two towns. This town's about 40 kilometres from where we live. And I just had a coffee and was doing some emails at the roadhouse, and I was heading into town to do some grocery shopping, and this road train came up behind me, and he was travelling, that's a prime mover, okay, like an 18-wheeler, came up behind me, and he was so close I couldn't see his headlights in my rear vision mirror. And I said, oh, gosh, I don't like this. And so I indicated to turn to the right, and I couldn't really slow down that much, so I had to do the turn at about, around about 40 kilometres an hour. But the right-hand lane ahead of me, coming the opposite direction, was clear, so I said, right, I'm going to get out of this guy's way. And as I swung around to turn into a side road to the right, this road train swung out, crossed the double line that's a no overtaking line, and went to overtake me on the right and T-boned me. And the local police at Wedderburn and Inglewood for, quite some time before this have absolutely hated me. And they are doing me for criminally or not doing me, they're trying to do me for criminally damaging this road train that T-boned me. Meanwhile, the road train driver, I can see no evidence that he was ever given so much as a breathalyzer, no drug test, no alcohol test. There was no forensic investigation of the crash scene. And it's only by the grace of God and his guardian angels that I'm even alive, because I'm sure there's lots of people out there who have been T-boned by 18-wheelers who have not walked away, even if they were only going like 50 or 60 kilometres an hour when they impacted. It's not fun.
Mike, do you have any comments?
Well, the passing on the right would be, I guess, equivalent to passing on the left here. And if you had, did you have a turn signal on?
Yep. The road train driver is trying to make out that I indicated to the left when I did not indicate to the left.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you've given notice, he because he is behind you was this a 2-lane road or a 4-lane road or what?
No, it's a major highway, but it's running through a small country town, so it goes down to 2 lanes.
Okay, where you were located, was it 2-lane at the time?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one lane going one direction, one lane coming directly at you, right. Correct?
Over here it's a double white line, which means no indicating. Oh, and by the way, this all happened on a railway line as well. I just crossed over the railway line, and he would have had to do his manoeuvre while he was on the railway line.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems as though he had a duty to yield the right of way to the traffic in front of him, and his passing you without
completely dangerous driving.
Yeah, well, and because there was no witnesses there other than you and him, it's basically a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. They can't prove criminality because they can't prove intent. And so their whole argument, well, if it was nothing but a true, based on real law, common law courtroom, which it's not, you wouldn't even have a case. But because this is an administrative court trying to engage you in commerce for the benefit of the corporation, the whole thing is a fraud from the very beginning. And as you've asserted earlier in many of your broadcasts, you're not a party of their corporation. You're not a subject of theirs. You've given them notice to this, and they're still pursuing you because they have guns and I don't. Right, they're hoping that at some point you will not respond. And if you don't respond, then they act under the presumption that you've accepted their offer and they proceed against you. But as long as you keep giving notice, and I want to hear you tell us about, a couple of weeks ago, you went into court on Friday, and I want to hear what happened there because you're still obviously with us. You're not locked up. So I'd like to find out what happened there if you can share with us.
Okay. Well, basically what happened a few weeks ago, this was before Christmas, I did have a court appearance, okay? Now, the cops around here, they have an administrative, whatever it is that they call it, that is completely against habeas corpus and British common law going back hundreds of years, where they do not have to serve you a summons into your hand. If they send it to a PO box or your letterbox or whatever, apparently that's good enough for them. Now, I wish to assert here it's not good enough, okay? If you want to get a summons, for a court appearance, because that leaves a wide open door for all sorts of entrapment. And that was what they did with me. They claimed I had a court appearance, and I knew nothing about it. Okay, I had not received any notification into my hand of this court appearance. And of course, the courts are a fraud anyway. There wasn't even a magistrate there. It was a registrar, okay? And from what I gathered, there was not even a magistrate in the courthouse on that day. And this is a town, Bendigo, which has a population of about 120,000 people. And that stinks to high heaven when you've got a courthouse and there's not even a magistrate. And here guys pleading, as you know, they were totally unaware that this guy's, or they knew that he wasn't a magistrate, but they didn't know their rights. Okay? Now, what I said, the prosecutor called me across to one side and said, well, how do you plan to plead? And I said, well, we had a bit of a discussion, but to cut a long story short, I said, well, you work for a private corporation, and I refuse to consent to contract with you. And this prosecutor actually dropped the F-bomb. Okay? When he heard that, because he knew that I was speaking the truth. That is actually true. Now, the registrar, you know, I said, I don't even know what sort of court I'm getting judged under here. And he said, oh, this is a criminal court. Now, the other thing that they're trying to do me for is putting out fraudulent number plates. Now, they're not fraudulent because I refuse to consent to contract with Vic Roads, which is the roads board here, because they're also a private corporation and they are running an extortion racket. And for me to put their stupid little piece of aluminium plate on the front of my vehicle is going to cost me 2 weeks' wages from my job. And that is at their supposed discount rate. Last I heard, it was about $273 per annum for motor vehicle registration. And that's without a trailer. If you want a trailer, that's going to be about the same sum over again. So if I want to have a 1-ton truck and a trailer, that is going to cost me 1 month's wages from my position that I have. Okay? Now, I own my own land, but I'm, it's difficult with the cash flow situation for everybody out there at the moment. Okay? It's just ridiculous. And I would like to talk about this a bit more, about the whole motor vehicle registration and how they're absolutely sucking the economy dry, because it's not just me. I've found out that it's just about everyone out there.
Guineith, hold that thought. Mike Parsons, hold your thoughts. We'll be right back after a few short commercial announcements. This is USA Prepares. Plus, many of you know that the vehicles that I drive are old, and I have a car that is 17 years old. And I was considering buying an extra set of wheels for this vehicle. It's an all-wheel drive vehicle. And I like to have aggressive tires for the winter and smoother tires for the rest of the year. And I like the idea of having an extra set of wheels. And when you have an all-wheel drive vehicle, all the tires have to be the same. Otherwise, you'll tear up the transfer case. And that's an expensive proposition. So I priced a set of wheels for this particular vehicle, and it's $400 for the set and $400 for the tires. That's a total of $800. And I thought about it, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So for $2,200 more than the wheels and the tires, I bought another vehicle. And it's a diesel. For $3,000, I bought an old Mercedes diesel. And it's in great shape. And here's the problem. I went to register this darn thing, and I had to pay sales tax again. So the first guy that bought it paid sales tax. The second guy that bought it paid sales tax. I had to pay sales tax. So it's a criminal racket. Now, how much How much did it cost me to register and have this thing inspected? About 10% of what I paid for the vehicle. 10% in order not to be harassed on the road. And I believe we've talked about extortion in this broadcast. So if you go to Wikipedia, here's what it says about extortion. Extortion, also called shakedown, out wrestling, and it's a criminal offense of obtaining money, property, or services from an institution through coercion. It's sometimes euphemistically referred to as a protection racket, since the racketeers often phrase their demands as payment for protection from real or hypothetical threats from unspecified parties. Extortion is commonly practiced by organized crime groups. Okay? So that's what is happening to us. If we don't get our vehicles registered and tagged with license plates, this group of armed enforcers, thugs, will approach us and make our life miserable at the point of a muzzle of a gun. And that's what you're talking about, isn't it, Guineith?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, you know. And what makes it even worse is that criminally minded types who have never actually been arrested, they find their way into police academies and they, do all the work and they graduate and they get a badge, okay, which enables them to use the force of the supposed government to actually set up their racketeering scam locally. And then things can start to get really bad because they act exactly like the mafia, okay? Now, for those listeners who are new to the show, my husband, whose name was Archie, he before he became a Christian, he was involved in the Melbourne underworld, okay? And after he became a Christian, he went to Bible college and gained his minister's qualifications and then began preaching to the gangsters, thugs, prostitutes, drug dealers that had been his former associates, some of them. And some of them also became Christians. And it's there's not many people doing that sort of work, but boy, is it needed. So when I was married to him, I got to meet some of his friends, and, I got to learn a little bit of how that world operates, from the sidelines. But it's sort of like if you sit on the sidelines of a baseball field long enough, you don't have to play baseball, but you get to know how it's played, right? Well, that was the situation that I was in. And there's one cop in particular here. His name is Brad Hyatt.
Hold that thought. We're going into a break. And tell us more about sitting on the sidelines learning about how the mob works. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is in Australia. Mike Parsons is in Tennessee. Guineith, you were telling us about the mob and a particular cop. Please continue.
Yeah. His name is Brad Hyatt, okay? And I'll tell you about this guy. When he was in high school, he was the school bully, okay? And I know this because I had a boyfriend at one time, and my boyfriend's son used to go to school with Brad Hyatt, okay? And at that time I was going out with this guy. The name's pretty distinct. That's B-R-A-D, last name is H-I-A-T-T, Okay, so make sure you put that on your website. This guy, Brad Hyatt, about a year ago, okay, he punched a woman so hard who lives in the local town that his fist penetrated through the abdominal muscle in her stomach and actually landed inside her abdominal cavity. And then he arrested this woman for assault. Now, I'm about 6 foot tall. I would say Brad's about as tall as what I am, and he's got a bald head, okay? This woman, who is a friend of mine, she would be, I don't know, about 5 foot tall. And from what I gather, he basically put this woman in hospital and then charged her with assaulting him. And she just the other day, let me know that she's now off her good behaviour bond of 12 months that Brad put her onto. Now, for that reason, I think that, well, Victoria Police does have a complaints department, and from what I gather, quite a number of people have been complaining about Brad Hyatt. Okay? But my concern is that even after he loses his badge, that he will still, I think that he's got, I believe the technical term is goods on quite a lot of people who live locally, and that he will continue, even if he loses his badge, to operate as a local mafioso, including wielding power over the rest of the officers, both in Wedderburn and Inglewood and possibly elsewhere, and other local towns in the district. Because, you know something, he's the worst of the worst that you could possibly imagine. And,
hey, Guineith?
Yeah.
Guineith, can I share something quickly? Vincent, I sent you a link to a YouTube video via email just a moment ago, and
okay.
It's about a U.S. Navy SEAL named Clinton Emerson, who does about an hour and 24-minute presentation about being a SEAL. And right off the bat, one thing that is telling is this guy admits he's a sociopath. He gets off shooting people in the face, and because he's a SEAL, he's viewed as a hero as opposed to a murderer.
Yeah.
So you need to look at this, because this is telling. This is a guy who's admitting what his problem is. Stand by.
Mike has some dogs that he has at his farm.
Contending for position. But anyway, what this shows is that these sociopaths that are among us, if they didn't join the police force and the military, they would ultimately be shot and killed by someone of better quality trying to eliminate the threats, or they would end up in a prison if the prisons were accountable. But as it is, they're being recruited and put into the service. They call these guys heroes, and I bet that fella that attacked that woman, they would refer to him as a hero in some distorted fashion, because that's what they want put up against us. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to share this because what little time we have left, people need to grasp that you went into the courtroom and basically you were able to walk out without being incarcerated, as I understand it, because you told them you were not there to engage in commerce. Is that correct?
Well, yes. I actually have to still have another court appearance in February, okay? But because I complained, you've got to understand, the police locally here are behaving exactly like a mafia cartel, okay? And Brad's at the top, even though he's not the highest ranking officer around here anymore, because he did get demoted for bashing this woman, okay? he's got goods, I believe, on every other officer in the district, okay? And they do what he tells them to do. From my research into how things actually operate around here, with talking to people locally, okay, and not just one or two people, just generally researching my case, okay? And I've got nothing vexatious against Brad. I just want to point that out, or against any of the officers here, but I've got to research my own case. I've got to find out what is actually going on around here, okay? And that's what it is. I believe that he's got goods on every police officer within 50 kilometres in any direction, and that they do what they're told, or there's going to be consequences from Brad, and he is a mafia thug in a police uniform. Nothing more, nothing less. And he wants to be the Don. Okay? And like I said, it almost doesn't matter if he loses his badge or not. He's still going to be the local mafia Don. And he needs to really begin to face some criminal penalties for the criminal damage that he has done.
Can you talk about...
To my friend.
Gwyneth, you talk about having the goods. The same thing was true with J. Edgar Hoover. He had the goods on some of his government friends in quotes. And he was able to get his way a lot. And he's considered to be a hero of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He's the guy that made it into the enterprise, this vast spying enterprise that it is today. I don't know anyone who trusts the Federal Bureau of Investigation for anything. I don't.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Actually, Brad Hyatt, a year or two ago, actually did get rewards for interfering with the private property rights of a local motorcycle club around here. Okay? I would actually trust members of this motorcycle club more than I would trust the local so-called law enforcement. And so would most of the people who live around here, because the members of the motorcycle club have been the best neighbours ever. They're absolutely no problems whatsoever. They go up and down the road on their motorcycle rallies, okay? They have a lot of fun. They play loud music, and that's the extent of what they do, as far as I'm aware, on their land. You know? They're basically, well, here we would call them bogans. I believe in the US you would probably call them rednecks. But, yeah, that's similar culture. Motorcycles, girls, beer, having a good time and chilling out on the weekend. And that's what they do, as far as I know, you know. But you know something? Brad, about a year or two ago, went in and made a bunch of trouble for the motorcycle club, and basically got decorated for the fact and put in charge of Wedderburn Station by the Victoria Police. And then he turned around and bashed my friend up.
There's a guy, there's a guy in Missouri, the small city of Sparta, which is about 3 or 4 times, the whole city is about 3 or 4 times the size of our farm. So it's not a very big city. And this cop, his name is Andrew Spencer, tased one of my friends and one of our instructors. His name is Bob Eastep, 68 years old at the time. And we caused a lot of attention to be drawn toward Sparta, Missouri. We showed up, about 25 of us showed up at one of their aldermen's meetings, and they wouldn't let us speak. And they searched all of us for weapons, and we didn't have any. We streamed it live on the internet. And what happened was, as a result of this, there was outrage. And then the chief of police resigns, probably under pressure. And who becomes the chief of police? Andrew Spencer, the guy who tased Bob Eastep in his vehicle. Tased him in his vehicle. No call for it. And so what we're talking about is these guys get promoted. You do a lot of bad things to the village as a enforcer with a gun and get promoted. So it's not just in your neck of the woods in Australia. So here's the question I have for both of you. Guineith, we'll go with you first, then Mike. Have you ever had a gun pointed at you by a law enforcer?
No, but I've had a pack of Alsatians set on my boys and I. Actually, we were chased through the Eildon State Forest by, as I gather, members of the WA police, and they had aluminium pumps, they had jet skis, they had helicopters, and in fact they did have high-powered rifles and a pack of Alsatians.
When we come back from this break... Okay. We come back from this break. Mike, the question for you. Have you ever had a gun pointed at you by law enforcement? Here's an article from nymag.com, January 5th, 2017. Arkansas judge accused of trading sexual favors for freedom. Judge Tim Parker of Carroll County, Arkansas, resigned in a formal letter to the Arkansas governor after being accused of sexual misconduct by the State Judicial Discipline and Disability Commission. According to the commission, beginning in 2013, Parker, that would be former Judge Tim Parker, engaged in a pattern of personal relationships with many female litigants. That included trading sexual favors for getting favorable bond conditions or releasing the women from jail without bail, the New York Times reports. So it's a problem throughout what has been referred to as the judicial system. Mike Parsons, my question for you, same as Guineith. Have you ever had a gun pointed at you by a cop or a law enforcer?
Yeah, and first let me tell the listeners, if you haven't already, go to mikeparsons.org. It's my website. Now, you're going to see some changes. If you've seen it before, it was basically taken over by the hosting company, and they put their all these graphics are not mine. These, statues and U.S. flags and stuff, that's what they put on there. That's not mine because I would never have that. It's offensive to me. But read the in brief section and then click on and read the narrative so you know what's going on. But the last time that they came out and raided the farm, there was about a dozen of them in uniform and a dozen out of uniform. And there was one guy hiding in the bushes that was a sniper with his sniper rifle. I understand it was pointed at me the whole time. That's why the officers had me walk about 50 feet ahead of them so that they were clear in case he decided to dispatch me there in my driveway as I walked from the gate a half a mile away up to the house. So to answer your question, yeah. And in the little bit of time that we have left, I just want to emphasize to people, this is a corporation posing as government. If you go to anticorruptionsociety.com, click on Lawfully Yours, it'll kind of give you an idea of what they're really doing, the racket they're running. And as I tried to explain a year ago on John's, when he was filling in, that because I told them I was not there to engage in commerce, I'm a live man, you're a corporation, we can't see each other or hear each other. Effectively, they dismissed the charges against me, but then they started it all over again. This is the procedure that they used. Presumptions, you've got to respond to them, you have to tell them, but you got to stay out of their arena too because it's a rigged game. And then they arrested me and kidnapped me for 5.5 months and had one of their goons try to kill me at the order of the judge, and then only released me under an extortion bond of $85,000 so that I wouldn't die. My wife came up with money to pay the bond to get me out. But they're trying to send me to prison now for 10 years. And your self-proclaimed constitutional attorneys out there like John Whitehead and Oath Keepers and all these other people, at the end of the day, they're on the payroll because they will not. How many people call into this show with tragedies? How many of those people have stepped up to help? Zero.
Okay, so let's tell it like it is. What has Sheriff Mack and his group done for you?
Zero. Oath Keepers, zero.
What has Gun Owners of America?
Zero.
Okay. What has Gun Owners of America done?
I used to have them on my radio talk show when I had a radio talk show, and I've called them. They will not return the calls. They will not touch the case, even though it's a Second Amendment case, straight, plain, and simple, where they stole my wife's guns and accused me of possession when I'm in another state. I'm not even there, and they arrested me and brought me back to the farm, had her unlock the house, and I'm 100 yards away, and they said, oh, he's in the vicinity of a gun, so let's send him to jail, send him to prison for 10 years. Is this America or Nazi Germany?
Mike, let's be clear. Were you talking about Gun Owners of America not helping you?
No, zero. They're a big zero. No help, no response.
You called them?
I called, I emailed.
How about
for
NRA?
months. No help.
How about NRA?
Won't do a thing.
How about any of these organizations that proclaim to be helpful?
None. I called, I emailed, none. No help. It's part of the game. They have a living off of a continuation of this system.
We got to go. Mike Parsons, thanks so much. Guineith Isaacs, thanks so much. Class above all, honesty and integrity.